We know now that Sumire is the masked man. She summoned the new beast, and this beast is going on a rampage destroying the village. But now, it's in another dimension and Boruto Mitsuki seemingly will fight her off or talk no jutsu her. We don't really know what will happen there. But something's been on my mind recently. I thought that Sumire would be killed off in this week's episode, that everybody in the village would get together and basically stop the new beast and stop her, right? Resulting in her death. But seemingly they're not taking that route, and Sumire could possibly survive. Now, this really conflicts with the manga and the movie because we don't see these characters, Sumire, Iwabe, Denki, in the movie, and we don't see them in the manga, which is even further ahead of the movie. So why is that? And I know some people are going to make the excuse, oh, they're completely separate, but they're not. They're not separate. In fact, they're written by the same author. The anime, the script for the anime is written by the same author that the manga is written by. So for people to be like they're completely separate, no, they're not. They're actually the same. And even if they're a bit different in the same way that the Dragon Ball Super manga has its differences from the anime, I don't think it'd be that different to the point to where three characters are non-existent in one of the versions. And we're talking about three characters that have gotten a decent amount of character development up until this point. You can't just introduce characters and then have them disappear without any explanation, and that's not really the Naruto style. That's not the Naruto way. Like, even when we got Naruto fillers and they'd introduce all these characters that we knew would not be in the canonical storyline, we still had an explanation as to why we would not see them again. So by the end of the filler, maybe they accomplish their goals, maybe they stop being villains and they, venture off into some distant land, maybe they become wanderers, maybe they die, something happens to them that would explain why we do not see them again. And these are fillers. So why, when we have characters like Iwabe that kick Boruto's ass, that failed the Ninja Academy, he has this amazing Earth release, he has this amazing weapon of his, he really shines in his class, that we do not see him in the Chunin exams. Not in the movie, not in the manga, it's just really weird. And what about Denki Kaminarimon? I mean, his father created a company that literally modernized the Lee village. I mean, you could say, well, he's not really cut out to be a ninja, he doesn't really have any ninjutsu skills, but he's got other skills, though. He's really technologically brilliant. In another way, he's really smart. Now, you could say maybe he'll fade into the background, he'll get hired into some, major tech company, or his father will basically, put him into some shit that he doesn't want to get put into, or maybe he does, and he'll sort of fade away into the background, right? That could indeed happen to him. But you want to know what would be even better for his character? For him to grow, for him to actually learn some ninjutsu, for him to actually develop into an average shinobi that could basically be an asset to one of these teams. I mean, we already got a lot of emotional character development where he gets possessed, he was getting bullied, and Boruto teaches him a lesson. These kinds of things are important for growing characters, and why just shift characters out when you grow them? Maybe they could just explain this as, oh, there were a bunch of ninja during, Boruto's academy years, that just became irrelevant. But that's a really half-assed explanation, and I hope they don't take it in that direction. Maybe they'll, continue to be in the anime, and they won't go anywhere, they'll make cameos in later episodes. But still, are they going to just throw the manga away? And keep in mind, we're jumping into a new arc. Even though Sarada's looking a little bit like a hoe, even though we've got characters people do not care about right now, maybe even villains that people aren't totally feeling at the moment, I don't see them just completely throwing the manga away. From my understanding, the manga is going to be relevant to the anime, and vice versa. The anime is going to be relevant to the manga. They might have some differences, but all in all, they'll follow the same kind of path. Even though I'm pretty sure the anime will jump pretty far ahead of the manga, and the manga will probably be maybe an arc or two behind, and I think that's just bound to happen, especially if the manga is monthly. Now, going back to these characters, Denki, Iwabe, Sumire, as well as some other characters that were introduced, those other girls, a part of Sumire's team, but I forget their names, guys. Obviously those characters probably won't be that relevant. I'm wondering how they will explain all of this, and in my opinion, there's only three ways. It's either they die, it's either they get captured, or it's either they try to fade them out. And I think that the last way, trying to fade them out, would be the laziest way, and I would not respect that. Now, do I think that Sumire will die? I don't think that she'll die, because I feel like they've already developed her character enough to where if they kill her off, I feel like it would be a little bit too much, especially at the beginning, and we know that they're trying to make this a more kid-friendly show at the start. So whereas the author and Kishimoto said that it'd get darker over time, they said they wanted to start it off kind of light, and I think this would be too dark to just kill her off. And if you think about why they took it to the dimension and why Boruto and Mitsuki jumped into that shit, it doesn't feel like a Sumire's about to die situation, right? You know what would feel like a Sumire's about to die situation? If she's there actually like exploding herself or something like that with the beast, or the beast is going out of control and Mitsuki did kill her off in the real world or in the main world, you know what I mean? But since they took it to a dimension, I'm gonna have to assume they're probably gonna talk her out of it, or they're gonna defeat the beast in that shit and then talk her out of it. Like, I don't know how it's going to all play out, but I just don't see Sumire dying. Now, she could still technically try to go on a rampage and kill off a bunch of characters, and maybe there would be some deaths amongst the academy class, but I'm willing to bet that's not going to happen. I don't think Sumire is going to kill anybody off, and I think that she herself will not die, although they could have done that and they could have explained why Iwabe and Denki do not appear in the manga or the movie. Now, if Sumire dies, that doesn't explain what happens to Iwabe, Denki, and other characters that were introduced, and at the same time, if Sumire doesn't die, well, you have to explain what happens to her, right? Because I mean, she is a very major character at this point. Not only does she resemble Hinata in a way to where I made speculations that she could end up with Boruto, right? But she's also an orphan. She's tied to the Foundation, and we know Foundation's tied to Orochimaru. They could take that in so many different directions. And on top of that, she has a lot of power that could possibly be utilized for good. The Nue, yes, was created to destroy the Hidden Leaf Village, right? It was basically, you know, harvested from a bunch of Hashirama cells, and it was passed down to Sumire so that she could one day unleash this thing on the fucking Hidden Leaf Village, and one of its unique traits is it can absorb chakra, and we know that itself can be very detrimental to the characters, to the community, all that stuff, right? But at the same time, could you utilize something that was initially intended to destroy the village for something good? Yes, you can, in the same way that the tailed beasts were not initially created to cause suffering, pain, destruction, but they were ultimately used to do those things. So at this point, I don't know what would happen, because even if Sumire dies, that doesn't explain what happens to the other characters, and I don't think she's going to kill off any characters, nor do I think she will die. What I think could possibly happen is another villain comes along, possibly like Kawaki, possibly another experiment, and maybe that character gets rid of someone like Sumire or does destroy the village, resulting in casualties, resulting in major deaths, right? Or it could be that some characters just disappear for whatever reason, you know? Maybe Iwabe disappears on some Sabo shit, on some Obito shit, and turns out to be Kawaki. Maybe Denki really does die in irrelevancy, and he does get hired by some major tech company. Like, we don't really know. But at the same time, all of this is really fishy, and I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think that characters will die? That's what happened to Sumire, Denki, and Iwabe. Do you think characters will get captured? Do you think characters will just die in irrelevancy? Or do you think they'll just take the real lazy approach and just say they're